Welcome, everybody. My name is Victoria Grinman. This is episode 32 of That Moment Heart to Heart Talk. And today I'm speaking with my new friend, Gly Gabriel. Gly, hello, welcome.
Hello, welcome to you. I guess to everybody that's listening and tuning in. I'm so excited to be here with all of you.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. I don't think people know what's in store today. So
Yeah.
I want to share with everyone, I met you on a retreat, right? And and this was just what's going on with my hair? Oh, I was just going, we were doing a lot of different amazing things, and I was completely taken by your workshop. I think, Gly, you will introduce yourself and tell everyone what amazing things you do in the world. But
Yeah.
I just want to share that upon meeting you, I saw myself in you. And I
Mm.
saw so many of the people that I work with in you. And in speaking with you, just the way that you connect and your energy and your effervescence. Now, I don't use that word often when describing people, but you are effervescent. There's something about you. It's like drinking, it's not even like cool water. It's like, when you get like a glass of champagne or like it's very, very crisp and like
Mm.
refreshing. It's
Yeah.
that connecting with you. There's something about the way that you listen and the way that you be, right? That
Mm.
really provides that connection. So
Mm.
I'm excited to have you share
Yeah.
today. So tell
Yeah.
everyone, who are you? What do
Yeah.
you
Thank
do in the
you.
world?
Yeah. No. Thank you so much for asking that. What I'll say is, even when you met me, I was leading this workshop, and one of the main questions is just like, who are you? And oftentimes we lead with what we do in the world, but more than that, for me, who I am is a possibility, and it's the possibility that we really do create our realities, as you see in the background right here. How that manifests in my life is through so many different ways, and my reality right now looks like me, being a transformational coach that helps other individuals really become empowered in their abilities to create a reality that they love, a life that they love. And that's also, I also teach meditation. I create content online. There's so many different touch points that I have in order to really embody this energy, this possibility that yeah, we are powerful beings can that we exist, and that in and of itself is a blessing, and we can literally shift our realities if we desire. And it's just about knowing the tools, the different frameworks, the ways of thinking and being that we often kind of know, but and it's like simple, but not as necessarily easy to implement and to live by, And so I just help. I'm kind of like a guide for a lot of people. I inspire people to really to realize that, hey, that's possible. And for those who want to work with me and have me guide them through that process of them going towards the life, the reality that they desire, I have different touch points for them to do that.
I love all of that. When can I sign up? And the other thought I have is, when I hear you share about it, just knowing a little bit
Mhm.
about you and having spent, a few days with you, I
Mhm.
notice that, and I know within myself that we can never go deeper with people than we've gone with our own selves, right? And therefore, I'm looking at you and just the way that you connect. You didn't, you weren't like born like this. This is
Mm-mm.
something that, this is a creation. This is a possibility that came to fruition within
Yeah.
you. And
Yeah.
now you help others do that because it's like, I see it within me and
Yeah.
therefore I can see it within you, and then I
Yeah.
can guide you, right? Being
Yeah.
with you, but then always guiding and helping you along the way. So I really, really want to get to a place where you can share, how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah.
Because you've had a journey, and the
Yeah.
journey did not start out the way that you are right now.
For sure. For sure. I've had, quite the journey, and I will just want to say one point on what you said. You said like you weren't born like this, and in some ways, I wasn't, but I was. And I think
Mm,
that we all have we're like seeds that have everything that we need to become a tree, but we just need to be in fertile ground and water that and really nurture it over time. And sometimes our seeds are in like grounds that aren't so fertile, or that are lacking in certain nutrients, and that we need to really reach our fullest potential, our fullest self
mm,
expression. And and wherever, even if you find if you're someone that finds yourself in a situation, in an environment, in a space that's not that's less than ideal, just know that it's never too late. That, just the very fact that you're listening to this, you can completely shift your reality. That this is perhaps the fertile ground that you need in order to really start to tap into your fullest potential. And so my story is that I grew up in the inner cities of New Jersey. My parents are for first generation, or they're fresh off the boat Haitian immigrants. So I'm a first generation Haitian American, and my dad was a cab driver. My mom was a stay at home mom, and so I literally came from very modest beginnings. Didn't have much, and I was able to, through just hard work and education, just following what I was supposed to do. Like, Haitians are very big about work and working and education. Was able to come to a point where I left inner cities, went to a boarding school in Pennsylvania called Westtown School, and then from there I went to Harvard University, and then from Harvard I worked on Wall Street. And so that's like the narrative that I usually tell people. And in spite of reaching all of this success, and so, like, this is a dream, right, for any immigrant family, any like most people in the world. It's like being able to go to Harvard and then go to work at a top investment bank, and be making well over six figures. I was doing it all, and I get there, and I have a moment where I listened to this YouTube video with this motivational speaker after a year of just like grinding it out at work, and I asked myself a question, and it's just like, Gly, are you happy?
Mhm.
And and it was the first time that I really took a look at that question, because I don't think I ever did. Most of it was like I was going most of my life, and I've had some fun. I enjoyed the journey, but there was always this sort of sense that, like, I felt like I wasn't being like my fullest self. I felt
Mhm.
like I was putting a mask on, especially when I got into the professional world, where you're supposed to be professional and be a certain type of way. And it was almost as though I didn't know how to be me in
Mhm.
that environment. And moreover, I was just like, who am I really? Like, and
Mhm.
is this the type of life that I want to live? Um, and so that trail of questions just started to have me unravel things. And I always talk about how oftentimes I feel like most of my life I felt like I was a product on a manufacturing line that was moving down, and different things are being added to it over and over again, until you get to, and you're going to this place called success and happiness. But
Mm.
then you get to the very end, and you're just like, wait a minute, like, so this is what I look like now, and I'm in the success and happiness, but I don't feel happy. I'm successful, but I'm not happy. And so that's where I found myself. I didn't really recognize myself. I didn't know who I was. And so I had to, from there, it was like, oh, this massive awakening. And from there, like, this was like, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. I started the journey of taking off all these things that were put onto me, these narratives that I was told to was the definition of success or happiness. These narratives that I somehow took on, at some point in my life, that had me believe that I was less than, and that I didn't deserve all the abundance that the world has to offer. And so it's just like letting go, letting go, letting go. And in that space of letting go, more of the real me could shine through. And so it was not easy. And so how I used to be was, being able to speak to you like this, being able to just you talk about this effervescence, this energy. And I get this a lot now, because I've done the work of just letting go of the narratives that don't serve me anymore. And I always say that all of our power resides in the present moment. And so I started to get into mindfulness right after I left Morgan Stanley, and starting to meditate every day, and just seeing that, wow, oftentimes my thoughts are caught up in things that don't feel so good, that are not nice. If other people said the things that I said to myself, to me, I would not have them in my life. And so I
Mm.
think a lot of us have that, going on. We have these thoughts and these patterns of thinking that are not really loving, that are not really empowering. They don't allow you to express your fullest self. And so becoming aware of that, becoming finally attuned to what are you thinking, and how does that make you feel, and then just being aware of that, and alone separates you from those narratives, And then you can start to do the work of shifting away to what actually empowers you, to your truth, to the fact that you are a beautiful being that deserves to be loved, that deserves to do work that they're passionate about, that deserves to have all the types of abundance that this world has to offer. But you have to choose that. And the first step is to become aware of it. Separate yourself from the old programming and narratives and thoughts that you had, and then start to slowly do the journey towards the ones that actually feel more aligned, that feel true to you, and then to boldly live in alignment with that, to actually be like, hey, this is my truth, and this is my story, and this is how I'm going to move and act going forward. And in the face of the resistance of perhaps your past and family and different societies saying, no, you shouldn't be this way, because those are like the narratives that we perhaps inherited from them, and we took it on. And now you're saying, no, no longer. This is what I believe. This is how I want to live. And
Mm.
to do that with courage, with with like certainty, it takes another thing. But I think my journey has been a journey of getting to what everybody desires or what we covet, and then seeing that that's not what we really want, or at least for me, and then choosing what I wanted, and then going and living in alignment with that.
Yeah. Oh,
Mm.
one of the things I think about as you're sharing this is when we think about growth through struggle and my
Mhm.
obsession with post traumatic growth, right? And I'm thinking about in order for that breakthrough, that, we need to have a pain, we need to have the pain of where we're at needs to be
Mhm.
greater, right, than the benefits and the pleasure that we get from where we are. And,
Mhm.
from one immigrant to another, because my family and
Mhm.
I we're all refugee immigrants. My children, if I
Mhm.
have them, hopefully will be first generation Americans. And
Yeah.
I have to say, reaching that level of success, some might say, and I'll play devil's advocate, hello, like what more could you want, right? So
Yeah.
I definitely feel what you're saying, but a lot of people might say, or, people that I work with who might be younger and like in this process of, discovering where they want to be might say,
Mhm.
what more do you want? So Gly, being in this space of achieving this success, and having those comforts and being able to,
Mhm.
and I know you've shared, help your family, which is my goal and dream, is to be able to give
Mhm.
back to the family that gave to me just to be where I am today.
Mhm.
What was the pain? Like, can
Mhm.
you describe the pain that was greater
Yeah.
than the pleasure?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've never had it framed in that way. And that's a lot of the work that I do as a coach as well, as helping people get present to the pain of where they're at, and
Mm,
then also get present to the pleasure of what could be possible. And when I was at Morgan Stanley and I had this awakening, the pain was just seeing where I was at and how it didn't match up with who I thought I was or the life that I wanted to live. And and also it was like, okay, you're making six figures, but like, like at one point my friend, one of my good friends was like, Gly, you're one of these people who's going to like, is kind of really is going to be very successful, that's going to climb the corporate ladder and do things, like buy the tea and but you're never going to really do anything too crazy or out there. And I remember him saying this to me, and I was just like, wait a minute, that's not who I thought I was. I thought I was someone
mm,
who's adventurous, who's outgoing, who's the one that's bold and is the first to go. And in high school, this is a friend of mine from high school. We'd have like these dances at our boarding school, and I'd be the first one to go and like ask a girl to go dance or something like that. And everybody's like, oh my god, like the balls of him, and I felt a sense of pride and was like, yeah, like because I can do whatever I desire, like I really believe that. And then for someone to tell me, someone who's really close to me and who knew me, to be like, this is how he viewed me. Like I'm very like just by the box, and like I was like, it just didn't line up with who I thought I was. And then in addition to that, being in that environment where I'm doing the type of work that I'm doing, like analyst work, which is at the bottom of the totem pole, you're just doing all the grunt work, etc. But feeling like, yo, there's something more for me in this world than to just be making rich people richer.
mm,
I really, it just didn't line up. And it was like I was putting a mask on every day, putting a smile and saying like, this is okay. This is, like, yes, let's go and, do these $1 billion deals and putting in the FaceTime. And meanwhile, like I'm like hurting inside. I like every Sunday night there was like anxiety in the pit of my stomach because I'm about to having to go into this office and do this work that I really don't give a damn about. And it was just like, oh my goodness, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? It's like I'm drinking poison, and I'm just like, yeah, this is nice. Yeah, like I look at me, I'm partying in New York City, and I'm making 6 figures, and yeah, like cool guys. I work at Morgan Stanley, the top investment bank. I went to Harvard. Who cares? Who cares if you're dying inside? A lot of people, I think a lot of the reason why we have cancer and depression and just overall just people being unwell, not being happy, is because we know that we could probably live a way that feels good for us, but then we choose to subscribe to to the stories of what everybody else says is success. So like my mom says I need to be a doctor or a lawyer, and so I have to do that. Meanwhile, you're waking up every morning like having to take depression pills or anxiety pills because you don't want to go to work. Like this is the reality for a lot of people, and so for me to like feel this pain, to just be like, wow, like I'm people are seeing me a certain way that I don't see myself. I'm in an environment doing the work that I don't care about. That's actually hurting me. Like this just does not feel good. And I know that I have more to give. I have more to do. And I think that I can reach success, my version of success, making money, having the relationships, all of that without all of this pain. And so something inside of me was pulling me, and I don't know what it was, but I started to listen to that. And I think a lot of us have that in us. We're just like, man, like I know there's more for me, but we're afraid to actually to listen to that, because it takes courage to actually to go with that, because you're going into the unknown. But I think that the people that we look up to, and at some point in their lives have kind of started to listen to that voice inside, and to that thing that was pulling them, and allowed it to express through them. And so yeah, that pain was just the pain of just that situation, and realizing that this is not the life that I wanted to live.
You
Yeah.
know, it does take a lot of courage
Yeah.
to pluck yourself from something that is seemingly so comfortable,
Yeah.
right? And that's something I love that you're talking about this, because many times people will say things about people that have money or have this type of success. What do they have to worry about? Why are you worried about them?
Oh
I
my
find
God.
that those are the people that sometimes have some of the most difficult sort of challenges within. And
Yeah.
I love that you're shedding light on this, because the pain of not living your truth, right, as per your title of this, right,
Mm-hmm.
in alignment with your truth, is so painful. And when we're not expressed and we aren't being who we ought to be in this world, right, it can be very, very challenging. And
Yeah.
I guess my other question is, as I'm thinking about this, some of the closest people to us, our friends and our family, who
Mm-hmm.
strive. And I remember, I don't know if it was on your website that I saw
Mm-hmm.
the video of you
Mm-hmm.
sharing the story. I think it was, but they, came to this country for this American dream.
Mm-hmm.
They did, my father painted houses and my mother cleaned toilets in Italy before coming to America so I can be where I am today, right? So
Mm-hmm.
all of these different things, and now you're plucking yourself from it. What?
Yes.
Some of the people closest to us, not because they don't love us, right?
Mm-hmm.
In an attempt to try to help us,
Mm-hmm.
try to tell us, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Did that
Mm-hmm.
happen to you?
Yeah,
And
for sure.
how did you, so first of all, how did you navigate that? And the second
Mhm.
question is, of course, we're not going to throw those people away. They're our family, they're our friends, right? We love them. But how did your circle, how did your accountability circle change? How
Mm.
did
Yeah.
how did your community of people around you shift if that happened?
Yeah, for sure. Another great question, and so that definitely, that's one of the biggest challenges when you start to like break away from everybody else or what you knew before, and pursue this life that of alignment. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones that are kind of trying to keep you the same, and so I navigated that by just saying, hey, like, what do I actually want? And that's a powerful question. I don't think we all often answer that honestly. But I took a look at that and I was like, you know what, right now I know that I love traveling, I know that I love Latin culture, and so I decided to just go and backpack around Latin America for like, and it was like indefinitely, but I ended up doing it for over a year. And in that space, I was able to have a clean slate, and to be able to, and I know that I wasn't running away from anything, because I was running towards something. And I think that's something that's very important to me, because sometimes when you run away from something, you're just bringing more of like what's always like you are wherever, you're still bringing yourself to wherever you are. And
Mm,
so I was starting to like move towards this direction of like living in alignment with my truth, and it's discovering, exploring new things, and shifting my perspective. And so traveling was like a blank canvas for me, and I could just discover myself on a without the my family and friends directly impacting me or saying like what I should be doing, etc. But having said that, like, when I tell my Haitian parents, like, hey, I'm gonna go leave my job and travel, like, what do you mean? Like, what are you doing that for? And so that was a point of contention. And when I came back, I remember after over a year not seeing my parents, I see my mom, and she's just like, she looks at me and she's like horrified, and she, because I have like a beard at this point, like my hair is kind of a little wild. She's like, oh my god, what did you do? And I'm excited to see her, and I'm like, oh, I'm so happy to see my family. I'm like my loving parents. And then my mom especially greets me with like almost not hate, but it's just like disdain, or just anger and disappointment, and it hurt a little bit.
mm,
But I'm grateful that I took the time, and I, even like through my meditation practices, I think that helped me at the time, and I didn't realize it. Just be grounded in who I was, and and
mhm,
and the path that I had chosen. And so
mhm,
like they're saying all of this stuff, and I'm just like, but like I'm feeling something inside and telling me that I need to keep doing this and keep being this way. That this is more who I am. And again, courage to be like, okay, I hear you, but like this is just it. And I'm and I'm perhaps a little weird in the sense, I just decided, I was like, hey, like, I want you in my life, but if you can't accept me as I am, then we're just not going to see each other that much. And I
mm,
made that like decision. Not
mm,
everybody can do that, but I think when you make that decision, that you are important, that you are worthy, that you deserve to be the fullest expression of yourself, even at the cost of perhaps losing family and friends. They will either, one, if they truly love you, accept you as you are, and the
mhm,
evolved version of you, because at the end of the day, they really care about you. They, if they're concerned, is because they want to see you, successful, or
mhm,
just thriving, etc. And if you show them like, hey, like, I am thriving, and this is it,
mhm,
oftentimes they'll meet you where you're at. But
mhm,
if you have equivocation, if you have doubt, then they'll keep harassing you with like, their fears and their concerns, because that's almost like they're just projecting what you're feeling. And
mhm,
some of them, they're just like, if you're just like so like solid in who you are, and your worthiness and your independence and the abundance that you live, and the truth of your living in alignment, and they aren't,
mhm,
then like you are almost like you're shining a possibility in their
mhm,
face,
mhm,
and they can't meet you where you are.
yeah, mhm,
And it's challenging, because you love these people, but you gotta, do you want to live in your truth, or do you want to be less than like what you deserve, less than who yourself to be?
mhm,
And sometimes they don't want to meet you there. They don't want to even take the journey to like to shift their perspectives in order to be able to be to to coexist. And in
mhm,
those cases, you got to make it this, like, you going to keep being you, or are you going to like be you're going to shrivel yourself so that you can keep those relationships?
mhm,
Or maybe and so it's a person by person decision. And perhaps you just love them at a distance, perhaps you just limit your interaction with them. And I did that for a bit, and I ended up moving to Brooklyn after I got back, and just really just seeing like, hey, like, uh, I can't be in this toxic environment right now, because I need to focus on myself. I was selfish for like a good 5 years or so. But the funny thing is, I discovered in coming back to Jersey, recently, my parents really love me. And when I showed up, like, just loving them as they were,
mhm,
then it was interesting, because now all of a sudden I could see that they were just figuring things out, that they
mhm,
were people just like me, and they were on their journeys, and I could extend some compassion to them. And oftentimes what happened is they started to blossom, and they
Mhm.
could let go of some of their old stories, and then all of a sudden we could be with each other more, and now we have like this new relationship that I didn't know was possible.
Mhm.
And I discovered there's so much love in my family. And so how did I navigate that? Is by one, like staying true to myself, living in alignment and being like, hey, this is how I want to live, and setting my boundaries and the parameters of what type of environment I wanted to be in, the reality that I wanted to live in. And then eventually when I was in a place where I could really hold that energy, that frequency strong enough, I could go and share that with them, and they'd actually meet me. They met me where I was. And it was only because I was able to accept them as they were, because I accepted myself. And so it's like this weird thing. And yes, some of my friends, I'm not as close to them as I used to be, and that's okay. That's we grow apart, and that's okay, because when you create space, when you live in your truth, it creates space, because now, like, the people, you repel certain people, you attract, and then you create space for new
Mhm.
people to enter into your life. And so I'm so blessed with so many amazing people, and I know that if I go back to some of my old friends and people that were really close to me, with this new way of being, the same way that I was able to do with my parents, I could perhaps transform those relationships too. And in fact, I'm looking forward to that. But this is but there's no pressure now. It's just like, hey, like, we'll see where things go, and
Mhm.
if that's in the cards, then cool, and if not, that's cool as well.
Mm. You know, I what you described for us who are in the life work and business of transformation and
Hmm.
living in your truth, what you just described is the exact sentiment around it all comes back to you, right? That we are the fertilizer. Like when we shed our non-truth, when we shed our
Hmm.
mask, it becomes the fertilizer for others
Hmm.
to, grow. And, I'm as you're talking, this visualization came to me of like,
Mhm,
as you shed, that is the fertilization for everyone else. And we're so scared sometimes, right? Like
mhm,
we're kind of scared to say, nope, like this is who I am because of that fear. And I hear it so many times of,
mhm,
if I tell someone how I feel and I get rejected, what then? If I do that, right? And it's like the courage that comes with being able to say, hey, this is who I am, and being able to shine that. And because
mhm,
you are able to be that, it creates this
mhm,
possibility for others to also step into that. And it,
mhm.
and that and but until you get there, like until you do it, right?
Yeah,
It's just a story someone's telling, right?
exactly.
It's almost like, how was that? It's like you got to be there to like experience it. I
You
can't really describe it in words, right?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and you are doing it so well, and it's such a beautiful thing to hear and listen to, because I think there's so many people, especially nowadays, right? I'm thinking you I think lie a little bit younger than me, but I'm thinking when I was a kid, I don't know about you, but there was no social media. Like if
No.
somebody didn't go to a party or wasn't invited, I didn't know about it. I wasn't sitting home being like, oh, I FOMO, like
Mhm,
everything was just kind of, a little bit more organic. And
mhm,
then now, as I'm, working with 20 something year olds and teenagers, the amount of pressure to be something, to a mold that you don't even, you're just fitting yourself into something.
mhm,
And what you said in the beginning really resonated, where you corrected me and you said, I was born this way. It's a
mhm,
matter of recognizing my strengths and who I am. And
mhm,
it sounds like you are lucky enough to have family who really cares about you.
mhm,
But it's not often that parents, are so in their truth that they're able to sort of allow their children to be who they are, right? I
mm,
think that it's
mm.
so hard because there are expectations.
Yeah.
So, let me ask, what I work a lot with parents.
Mhm,
What is some advice that you have for people who are thinking about or who are raising children?
mm.
And
Yeah.
one of the most important things is to have them be who they are and to discover that instead of impose expectations on them. What is your advice for those parents?
Yeah, my advice is to really get connected to, um, what is it that you truly desire for your child? Um,
Mm.
yes, you want them to be successful, to have a family, perhaps to be able to, take care of themselves. But why? Like, is because they'll be happy? Is it because um then they'll be in loving environments, so they'll feel loved, they'll feel worthy, they'll, you know, they'll feel autonomous and independent and able to really do whatever it is that they truly desire. Like, what is it that you truly desire for your children? And recognize that the best way for to be able to allow them to have that is for you to embody that yourself. You know,
Mhm.
what does it look like for you to be happy?
Can
Can
I
you
just
show
say
what you
amen? Yes, that's exactly the
Yeah,
message. Yes.
actually, you know,
Mhm.
can you show your child what it looks like to thrive? Can you show your
Yes.
child what it looks like to be in a loving, healthy relationship? Can you
Mhm.
show your child to look what it looks like to be worthy? Because
Mhm.
we learn so much more from what we see from like the people around us and how they're being, we like taking their energy. Like within the first 5 to 7 years of a child's life, they're just like a sponge, and everything that honestly, a lot of the things, the narratives and the things that they learn and that they continue to perpetuate throughout their lives started with you. And
Mhm.
so being aware of that and being like, oh wow, like I have a massive impact on my child. What would it look like to just show them now, wherever I'm at now, or as I before I start to have children, embody that, but
Mhm.
embody the qualities that you want them to have, you know, and also just being allowing them the space to discover it themselves, you know, because they're
Mhm.
going to go off and do things, make mistakes the same way that you did, and just they came into this world to explore and to express themselves. And so can you create a safe space for them to do that? And
Yeah.
so it starts with you creating that for yourself and then extending that to them and giving it, and then just being that constant, just
Yeah.
that constant of like that possibility of what it could look like, and
Yeah.
then allow them to discover their version of that.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll discover some other stuff that they value. But you know, ultimately, if you truly care about their expression and their happiness, then let yourself feel happy and let them discover what that is for them.
Yeah, I love it
Yeah.
because I got so excited. I mean, I don't think I've ever screamed amen when someone responded to a question, because there's no right or wrong answer, but I feel so
Yeah.
passionate about what you're saying. And
Yeah.
I was wondering if we'd be on the same page, because again, it all starts with you, right?
Always.
People have children for many different reasons, but if we are going to have children in this world, it's really part of it should be about finding out what are their gifts, what are their strengths, and how can we nurture it, right? So that they can be who they are in this world. And let me
For
ask
sure.
you, why. So, as you uncover who you are through this
Hmm.
transformation, one
Yeah.
of the domains of growth when we talk about post traumatic growth is
Hmm.
personal strength and
Yeah.
recognizing your strengths are. What have
Okay.
you recognized about yourself? I mean, you are
Yeah.
handsome, you
Hmm.
are successful, you
Yeah.
made a lot of money,
Hmm.
went to Harvard,
Hmm.
are the American dream come to life.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
What,
Yeah.
aside from that, have
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
recognized about yourself that is true, that
Yeah.
before you weren't so, privy to?
Yeah. I think what I've recognized is that I'm I really recognize that I'm a leader. I'm I'm willing to go to the spaces that people often are afraid to go, to explore parts of me. And I think also another thing is just like my introspection. I'm willing to like take a look at what's going on inside of me, mind, body, um, and and then go out into the world and try different things and try new things and fail perhaps. You know, look a little stupid sometimes, stumble, but with this knowing that like everything is going to be fine, you know. And so and I think that like it inspires other people. It shows people, hey, like that's possible for me. It creates this energy where they're just you know, actually they accept me for me, and they respect that like I'm going off and doing this thing, and like I'm trailblazing in these respects, and I'm discovering new things, and then I'm bringing it back to the community and inviting anybody who wants it to kind of go on that journey with me. And so, you know, like my leadership, my ability to be introspective, to go out, to be courageous and actually like go and experiment and test things out in the world and live this truth. Like I don't prepare for these podcast interviews. I'm just like, okay, what would it look like to be present? to be really present as you're doing this, to
Mm-hmm.
let go of the narratives that are coming up. Oh my God, like you said something stupid or didn't come out quite right, or you're stumbling with your words. It's like, oh, okay, you're just noticing them and just letting it go. Like I
Mm-hmm.
literally live this thing moment by moment. And so like I'm trailblazing in this respect and seeing like what does it look like if I go and live in this way. And then I can go back to the world and be like, hey, like I did this because and I didn't die. I did this and was able to attract this amazing opportunity. I did this and like now I'm like, you know, like all of these, whatever it is, you know, what would it look like if you tried that? And then some people will be like, oh no, not about it. Okay, cool. And then some people are like, hey, yeah, that sounds cool. Like, let me try it. And then they start to see a little shift in their lives as a result. And then,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, like this is amazing. Like this is, and so I think my strength is that, and because I lean into that, I continue to attract amazing people, opportunities, experiences into my life.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
One of the things I have another question for you about something you said, and I think this happens to a lot of us who have had transformative sort of experiences in life where
Hmm.
we just want everyone to experience the same
Mm.
thing and
Yeah.
everyone must. And if they don't see it, there's something wrong with them and we must make them do it, right? But
Yeah.
what something about what you just said has me notice that you have this, you know, you have this realization, it seems that, people are at where they're at, right?
Yeah.
They're just
Mhm.
where they're at. And part of being in this transformational space is accepting that.
Yep.
And I want you to speak a little bit to that because I think
Yeah.
that for a lot of younger people, a lot of people, not just younger, but young in their journey of this,
Mhm. Mhm.
want to push people to where they're at because
Yeah.
it's so much, worthier and it's so much
Yeah.
better and if only you saw the light. How
Yeah.
did you, because that's a little bit of ego, right? And like, how did you
Yeah.
subjugate that ego and how did you get to a place of groundedness within yourself to be able to accept people and
Yeah.
accept where they're at and
Yeah.
still, love them and be on
Yeah.
your path,
Yeah.
alongside them?
I love this question because it's like a work in progress, honestly. I think I'm better at that than most people, but I still see what my limitations are. And so I'll give you an example. Just recently, last week, I've been doing the surrender experiment all year, and it's coined by this entrepreneur named Michael Singer. He wrote The Untethered Soul. And so look him up. He's amazing if you haven't, like anybody that's listening. But it's basically my surrender experiment is just following the hell yeses. And so if I get an impulse, an inspired impulse about the direction I need to go, I trust that the universe is guiding me, and like I gotta go where that is. And so I had a massive impulse after like waking up at like 2 a.m. and journaling for a few hours. It's like, hey, you need to get away for a couple of days, go into the woods, and maybe even invite this woman that you've started to date. And so I was like, okay, cool, let me do this. So I sent her a message that morning. I'm like, hey, would you want to go like on a trip, like to a cabin in the woods? And she was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And so within like, 24 hours, we were in the woods, and it was like this challenging experience because I didn't realize it, but there was like no electricity. And so we ended up having to like use our phones and use candles and build fires. And it was like a whole thing. But in that space, one of the things that came up was, I'm always and I do this with my coaching clients. I create safe spaces for people, but sometimes it can bleed into like my personal life. And so she's like, hey, like she's talking about like her fear of bugs and then also just like things are, and she's like really into astrology. And so like I'm trying to understand that. And then like, but in our conversations, I'm like, hey, like, this is possible. Like you can just shift your perspective around it. And like every time she like brings up something that's kind of like, I can see that's kind of like her limits. And I'm like trying to show her like, hey, like just shift your perspective around that and you'll break through this. Like the fear of bugs, you don't have to be afraid of them. If you just let go of that thought or the resistance to bugs, then all of a sudden like they won't bother you anymore. And she's like, hey, I get that, but like that's not what I want to do right now. And so like she's like really telling me this over and over again, but like in different ways, in different conversations. I'm like just like, oh, but it's possible. Like you just shift your perspective, just be present. and
Mm-hmm.
and eventually one night she just like kind of like not yells at me, but she's like, dude, you talking about like you want to create safe spaces for people, but you're not creating safe space for me. I don't feel very safe right now. Like I keep telling you like this is like, this is where I'm at and this is what I want, and you keep trying to like tell me it's possible, it's possible. And I had to like check myself, and it's just like, oh wow, Gly, that's true. Like there's a lot of ego here, and there's like you think you know the way, and like not everybody needs to know that. Like create compassion. Could just be like, oh, okay, this is where this person's at, and not necessarily have to try to change them or tell them that they can change. Let your being show them that, like a
Mhm.
bee is like buzzing in my ears, and I'm just like, okay, just live it, Gly. And I just literally just like, okay, don't ignore the bee. And then the bee just flew away. And so she saw that, she sees that it's possible, but maybe she's just not ready to like go and do that right now because it's just
Mhm.
too traumatic for her. And so just it was interesting to have her just really say that to me, and then for me to realize, oh wow, Gly, you think you this bad coach that's able to listen and like create safe spaces for people, and you're and still here's your limits in that. And so
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, okay, like this is the work. Listen, get the communication, create a safe space for her, allow her to just be. And I'm so grateful for that experience, because now in all of my relationships now, like this week has just been like, okay, let's just people be like, they're talking and complaining about like how bad their lives is, or like I'm just like, okay, that's cool. Like in my mind I'm like, you're gonna figure it out. And then I just allow myself to thrive. And so
Mhm.
I'm shifting into this place where I don't want to tell people what to do. I want to show them what is possible. And for those who really want support, I can do that. But I think my being and my energy alone is just being in that space will be transformative for them. I don't need to I don't need to say anything. I don't need to convince anybody. Just live it. And
Mhm.
so but but it's like a lesson that I continue to learn on a deeper and deeper level throughout life. And so if you're someone that's like always trying to like spread the gospel of what's possible, that's if that feels aligned with you, then go ahead and do that. But I also know that there's a power in just like having this, just knowing it and being it, and
Mhm.
allowing people to be at wherever they're at in their journey, and to almost ask you for the help when they're ready,
Mhm.
and not try to push your agenda.
Mhm. Uh, Speechless, because what a beautiful story, and I wish you were here when I met my first water bug the other night, and it was 3 in the morning, and my
Mhm.
dog was barking, and I thought, "Oh my god, what am I gonna do? This thing has
Mhm.
an exoskeleton, like, steel. I'm not gonna." So I let it out outside with, like, a mason
Wow.
jar. But anyway, my point with that is, yes, you are so, on point with this constant. It's like a dance, and I've seen you
Mm.
dance, by the way.
Mhm.
You're a great dancer, but it's like the back and forth, right? It's like
Mhm.
you're going forward and you're
Mhm.
enlightened, and
Mhm.
then you're met with someone in your life who like says nope, and you're like, wait a minute, right? And then you have to kind of step back, and it is the, I think, distinction between, someone who can teach and lecture a point versus
Mhm.
a leader, right? Because leaders
Mhm.
lead from within, and
Yeah.
we don't have to necessarily speak it. We could just be it. It
Mhm.
reminds me, Gly, of when I worked with very young children
Mhm.
and teachers. And teachers would always say, we don't know how to implement mindful moments, and we don't know, how to corral these kids in a quiet, mindful way. And,
Mhm.
they watched me, and it was very simple. And it was not something, I came up with. It was something I learned from a mentor. I
Mhm.
would use a singing bowl, right? A
Mhm.
Tibetan singing bowl. And I would, ring the singing bowl, and I would sit down in the circle. And all of a sudden, within minutes, children would just kind of gather around me. And teachers
Mm.
would say, why do you do that? And how did you do that? And
Mm.
my response is always, people are doing very important things in the world. Kids are copying homework from another kid. They're
Mhm.
gossiping about their crush. You know what I mean? Like, they're doing very important things in their life. And then you come and say, okay, class is starting. And we
Mhm.
have to find respectful ways, right? To kind of let people know I'm here
Mhm.
and I'm ready for you. And when
Mhm.
you are ready,
Mhm.
we will begin. And I
Mm.
think that
Mm.
that story of yours reminds me of that,
Yeah.
that people will come
Yeah.
in whatever form they come. But it's
Mhm.
your job to just continue being what you preach, right? Just
Yeah.
being it. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that story, and it makes me think about how do we transform education? Like because yes, we have kids and they're all in different like speeds and different, different spaces, places in their journeys in life. And so it's like, how do we bring that consciousness, that mindfulness into like the education space, and how do we bring that into like parenthood and like the family dynamic? How do we like embody that, and allow them to come to this possibility, to that mindful way of being, as opposed to like trying to push our agenda. And it's like challenging, right? Because there are certain skills and survival things and things that we want to teach them, but can we do that from like starting from like the being, and that's a work that I think I'm curious to explore eventually, especially once I have children one day.
If it wasn't the end of the hour, I would
Yeah.
so have this conversation with you now, but for another time for sure.
No, for
And
sure.
again, it starts with us, right?
Yes.
It starts with the staff. It starts with the person who is leading. So
Yeah.
I love that conversation.
Yeah.
Before we end, is there anything that you'd like to leave people with?
I think I'd like to leave people with.
It could be a mantra, a saying,
Hmm.
something like,
Yeah.
a practice or a book
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
that you think people should listen to today, right now.
For sure. Um, one of the things that um, I've been saying a lot of different things to myself every day, and just kind of like programming the subconscious. And if anything, what I will say to you guys is start to do the work of creating new thoughts for yourselves that feel good for you. And so for me, in the mornings, right after I wake up, and the evenings right before I sleep, those are some of the most crucial time periods in your day, because especially the mornings. But the evening is almost like how you end the night, the day, kind of bleeds. You kind of resume where you are in the morning. Even though technically
Mhm,
you have a blank slate, but oftentimes we just go back to like the anxiety or the fears or whatever that we ended yesterday with. And
mhm,
so if you can bookend your days with how you want to feel, and thinking thoughts that help you feel that way, it's a game changer, because now you're setting the tone for your day. You give yourself a better chance of allowing yourself to feel empowered, to feel confident, to feel loving, to feel inspired, because you start your day and you end your days with things that you believe that actually inspire, empower, make you feel confident, etc. And so for me, I try to, or I've been practicing really remembering that I am worthy, that well-being is my natural state, that everything is always working out for me, that all is well, um, that being present is my steady state, uh, that that I am creative, that I am curious, that I am playful, I'm abundant, I'm worthy, I'm empowered. I tell myself this every single day,
mhm,
and I'm injecting this into my subconscious every morning, every evening, and eventually, like, it just comes out now. It's just like
mhm,
natural thoughts are just they just start popping up because you've built a habit of them. It's like, oh yeah, I'm worthy. Of course, I can, ask for this raise. I'm abundant. Of course, I can, pick different types of foods that I enjoy, and feel that in the joy of eating different cool new foods. I'm creative. Of course, I can come up with this new project, this new idea, and make it happen. You train yourself, and so just have a little compassion with yourself. It might take a little time, but just over time, you'll start to notice the shifts in your life as you continue to practice these new thoughts that you kind of believe, or that you really believe, and that actually feel good for you, better than perhaps old thoughts that didn't really serve for you.
Thank you so much for choosing self-talk as one of as one of the takeaways, because it is an important starting point and
Mm-hmm.
important to continue in your life as we
Yeah,
grow older and have all sorts of challenges and things come up. It's amazing. Thank
for
you.
sure. No
And
doubt.
for everyone listening, Gly is a coach. And if you see yourself as someone who would like to learn more, I so recommend him. Just being in his presence is so nice and incredible. I loved
Mhm.
it so much. It was like a warm blanket. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Gly, how can people reach you? I know that
Yeah.
the website is down there, but for those of us,
Yeah.
for those that are listening, can you
Yeah.
share how they can reach you?
Yeah, sure. So you can go to my website if you want to like book a consultation with me, a clarity call where we can dive into your life and like kind of just seeing like where you are and where you want to go. And so just glygabriel.com/coaching for that. And I'm very active on Instagram. And so if you're on Instagram, feel free to go to Instagram at Glyvolner. So that's actually my full first name. So that's GLYVOLNER. And so follow me there and you can stay in tune with the journey. And like if and when you're ready to receive a little bit of guidance, you can just send me a DM.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Gly, thank you so much.
you're
Everyone,
welcome.
we'll see you soon for episode 33 coming next week. Bye, everyone.